I found out my partner was using my Netflix account to watch shows with their ex. So this all went down about a week ago, and I'm still feeling all kinds of ways about it. My partner and I have been together for over a year now. Things have been great, and we even moved in together a few months ago. You know how it goes, sharing food, sharing chores, and of course sharing Netflix. We each have our own profiles, but we also have a joint one where we watch stuff together. I didn't think much of it until I started noticing something weird in the continue watching section of Alex's profile. There were shows and movies I know I'd never watched. Stuff like rom-coms and those trashy reality shows that Alex always claimed they hated. I didn't think much of it at first. Maybe they were watching on their own time, but it kept happening. Curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to check the recently watched section. To my surprise, the same shows kept popping up. But then something hit me. One of those shows was something Alex once mentioned watching with their ex. It was one of those niche series that you only get into when you have some kind of history or inside joke around it. The more I thought about it, the more suspicious I got. And then I made the mistake of scrolling through Alex's phone while they were in the shower. Yeah, I know, not my finest moment, but I had this gut feeling I just couldn't ignore. I didn't find anything in their texts, but I did find a bunch of messages on Instagram between Alex and their ex. They were chatting about the episodes they'd been watching together and laughing about old times. It was clear that they were watching these shows simultaneously, using our Netflix account like some virtual date night. I felt my stomach drop. It wasn't like Alex was cheating, exactly, but it definitely felt like a betrayal. They were clearly still in touch with their ex and sharing this kind of time together. Even if it was just through a screen, felt like crossing a line. I didn't know what to do, but I also knew I couldn't keep quiet about it. When Alex came out of the shower, I confronted them. I tried to stay calm, but my voice was shaking as I asked, "Why are you watching shows with your ex using our Netflix account?" The look on their face was a mix of shock, guilt, and maybe a little bit of panic. They tried to downplay it, saying it was just a show and that I was overreacting. According to them, they were only chatting because the series brought back some fun memories. But that didn't make me feel any better. I told them that it hurt, that it felt like they were creating a little bubble of nostalgia with their ex while I was left in the dark. After some back and forth, Alex eventually apologized, but I could tell they didn't really understand why I was so upset. They said they'd cut off contact with their ex and that they wouldn't do it again, but honestly, I don't know if I can just let it go. Now, I'm feeling stuck. We got this life together, and I thought I could trust them completely, but now I'm second-guessing everything. Was it really innocent, or did it mean more to them than they're letting on? I've been thinking about changing the Netflix password, just as a little power move, but it seems petty. At the same time, I kind of want to set some kind of boundary to show that this isn't okay. Has anyone else been through something like this? How did you handle it? Am I overreacting here? Because right now, I feel like I'm the only one losing sleep over it. Story 2. My friend wants me to sign a friendship contract to stay friends. Is this normal? Friendships, like all relationships, are complicated. I've had my fair share of drama and misunderstandings over the years, but nothing prepared me for what happened with Sarah. We've been friends for nearly a decade, since college, when we bonded over late-night study sessions and mutual hatred of organic chemistry. Sarah was always the organized one, the friend who never missed a birthday and would make spreadsheets for our group trips. It was one of her quirks, and I used to admire it. But lately, things between us had taken a strange turn. Sarah had become more anxious in recent months. She'd been through a rough breakup a year ago, which had left her wary and closed off. I tried my best to be there for her, inviting her out for coffee, listening when she vented, even binge-watching those trashy reality shows she pretended to hate, but secretly loved. But as time passed, she started pulling away, even from me. So, when she texted me one afternoon saying she wanted to meet up and discuss something important about our friendship, I was a little nervous. We met at our usual coffee spot, a small cafe near the park. Sarah looked jittery, clutching a folder to her chest as if it contained state secrets. After some small talk, she finally set the folder on the table between us and pushed it toward me. "I need you to look over this," she said, avoiding eye contact. Her voice had that tremor it always got when she was nervous. I opened the folder, half expecting it to be some kind of joke. Instead, I found a neatly typed document titled Friendship Agreement. I blinked, thinking maybe I was hallucinating. But no, there was complete with bullet points and number clauses. The first line read, "This contract is to ensure the continued friendship between Sarah and my name." Sarah, what is this? I asked, forcing a laugh that died quickly when I saw the serious expression on her face. It's a friendship contract, she said, as if it was the most logical thing in the world. I've been thinking a lot, and I don't want to lose you as a friend. I know I've been distant lately, and I just thought maybe this would help. I try to keep my tone neutral as I scan through the document. The clauses included things like, we will meet up at least twice a month. We will check in with each other via text at least 3 times a week. We will communicate any issues openly and honestly. We will prioritize each other's feelings and try to resolve conflicts quickly. There were even sections for penalties if one of us failed to keep up our end, like a missed coffee date or not replying to texts within a certain time frame. My mind was spinning. I didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or run out of the cafe. Sarah, why do you think we need this? I finally managed to ask. This feels extreme. She looked hurt by my reaction, but tried to explain. Look, after the whole thing with my ex, I've just been scared. Scared that I'll lose people. It's not just about you. It's about keeping the people I care about close. I thought this would make things more secure. Like a way to know where we stand. That conversation stayed with me long after I left the cafe. I spent the next few days trying to process it. My mind flipping between concern for Sarah and a deep discomfort at the thought of signing a contract just to stay friends. I talked to a couple of our mutual friends about it, carefully leaving out specifics. Their reactions ranged from bemusement to outright disbelief. That's not normal, my friend Jamie said bluntly when I brought it up over drinks one night. A friendship isn't a business transaction. It's supposed to be organic, not something you put rules around. I knew she was right, but that didn't make it easier. Sarah wasn't just any friend. She was someone I considered family. But did family ask you to sign contracts? I thought back to the early days of our friendship, the time we got lost on a road trip and laughed about it for years, or the night we stayed up until sunrise talking about our dreams for the future. None of those moments were planned. They just happened, and that's what made them special. I kept replaying Sarah's words in my head, her fear of losing people, her need for control after being hurt so badly. Maybe I was being too harsh. Maybe she was just struggling more than I realized. But every time I thought about putting my name on that dotted line, my stomach turned. A week later, I decided to talk to Sarah again. I invited her over to my place, hoping that a more private setting would make the conversation easier. As soon as she walked in, she looked at me with a nervous smile, clearly wondering if I had made a decision. Listen, Sarah, I've been thinking a lot about this contract thing. I started trying to keep my voice gentle. I get that you're scared. I know you've been through a lot, and I want to be there for you. But I just don't think a friendship should have rules like this. Her face fell, and I could see the hurt in her eyes. So you don't want to sign it? You're just going to walk away? No, I'm not walking away, I said quickly. I'm saying that we don't need this piece of paper to stay friends. We've been through so much without it. I'm here because I want to be, not because I'm obligated to follow a set of rules. Sarah bit her lip, trying to hold back tears. For a moment, I thought she might lash out, but then her shoulders slumped, and she sighed. I don't know, I thought if we had something concrete, then maybe you wouldn't leave me like everyone else has. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I'd known Sarah was struggling, but I hadn't realized how deep her fear went. I reached out, taking her hand in mine. You don't have to be afraid, Sarah. I'm not going anywhere. But if we're going to make this work, it has to be based on trust, not a contract. Can we try that? She nodded slowly, tears slipping down her cheeks. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you feel uncomfortable. I don't know how to handle things anymore. The weeks after that conversation were awkward. We kept our distance for a while, giving each other space to process everything. But gradually, we started texting again, and then meeting up for coffee like we used to. One day, she brought up the contract again, but this time with a laugh. Can you believe I actually thought that was a good idea? She said, shaking her head. I'm really sorry for putting you through that. I'm just glad we talked about it, I said, and that you're getting the help you need. We don't need a contract to be friends, Sarah. We just need to be honest with each other. She smiled, and for the first time in a long while it felt genuine. Our friendship wasn't perfect. It probably never would be. but it felt real again, grounded in understanding instead of fear. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. Looking back on everything that happened, I realized how much this experience had taught me. Friendships, like any relationship, need boundaries, but they also need trust and the freedom to grow naturally. And sometimes, the hardest part is knowing when to hold on and when to let go. Story 3. My ex is now dating my sibling, and I'm expected to be okay with it. I never thought I'd be the one sharing a story like this, but here we are. It's one of those situations you see on TV or hear about in gossip circles, but you never expect it to happen to you. My ex is dating my sibling, and somehow, I'm just supposed to be okay with it. Let's back up a bit. My ex, let's call them Taylor, and I dated for about 2 years. It wasn't perfect, but it was serious. We met through mutual friends, hit it off quickly, and before long, they became a huge part of my life. We spent holidays together, went on trips, and my family got to know them pretty well. My younger sibling, Jake, especially seemed to hit it off with Taylor. They'd play video games together, crack jokes, and bond over their shared love for basketball. At the time, I thought it was great that they got along so well. But after 2 years, things between Taylor and me started to unravel. We wanted different things, our priorities shifted, and after months of arguing over the smallest stuff, we decided to call it quits. It wasn't a messy breakup, but it wasn't friendly either. We both needed space, and for the most part, we kept to our word and went our separate ways. That was about 6 months ago. Fast forward to 3 weeks ago, when I get a call from Jake out of the blue. He sounded weirdly nervous, and I couldn't figure out why until he blurted out, "Hey, I've been meaning to tell you something. Taylor and I, well, we've been seeing each other." At first, I thought it was a joke. I even laughed awkwardly, waiting for him to say, "Just kidding." But the silence that followed made my stomach twist into knots. I could almost feel the tension through the phone as he waited for me to respond. When I finally found my voice, all I managed to say was, "You're serious?" Jake explained that they'd reconnected after the breakup when Taylor reached out to see how I was doing. It started with casual conversations, and then they started hanging out more often. One thing led to another, and now they were dating. "It just sort of happened," he said, like that would somehow make it better. I felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. I managed to mumble something about needing time to process, and hung up before I could hear any more details. My mind was racing, anger, betrayal, and hurt all swirling together. It's not like I still had feelings for Taylor. I'd accepted that we weren't right for each other. But my brother? Of all the people, why my brother? My parents found out pretty soon after, and while they were clearly uncomfortable with the situation, they seemed weirdly okay with it. My mom even said something like, "Well, if they're happy, we should support them, right?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It felt like I was the only one who saw how messed up this was. My dad, the peacemaker, suggested we have a family dinner to clear the air. I thought about skipping it, but I knew that would just make me look like the bad guy. So I went, dreading every second leading up to it. Taylor showed up with Jake, and they held hands like they were just any other couple, like there wasn't this whole awkward history between us. My parents kept glancing between me and them, as if waiting for me to explode. I did my best to hold it together, plastering on a fake smile and nodding whenever anyone said something to me. The whole time, I kept thinking, why should I have to be the bigger person here? After dinner, Taylor pulled me aside and tried to give me some speech about how they never meant for this to happen, and how they still care about me as a person. I was so angry I could hardly see straight, but I kept it bottled up. I just told them, "I hope you're happy," and walked away. I couldn't handle any more of their justifications or Jake's guilty looks. Now here I am, a few weeks into this nightmare, trying to figure out how I'm supposed to coexist with my ex and my sibling being a couple. My parents keep urging me to be mature about it, as if maturity means burying all my feelings and pretending like it's fine that my brother is dating the person I used to love. Every time I'm around them, it's like a punch to the gut, watching them smile at each other, hearing them talk about plans and inside jokes. It's like I'm being forced to relive my own relationship with Taylor, but from the outside, and it's pure torture. Jake keeps texting me, trying to smooth things over, but I've been keeping my distance. I know he didn't plan this to hurt me, but that doesn't make it hurt any less. Part of me wonders if I should try to just accept it and move on, but the other part feels like that's just letting them off the hook too easily. I feel like I'm stuck in this weird limbo where I'm expected to be happy for them, but I can't seem to get past how blindsided I feel. It's hard to explain to anyone outside the situation. My friends have been supportive, telling me I don't owe anyone my approval and that it's okay to feel upset. But when I'm around my family, I feel like I'm the problem for not being able to just smile through the discomfort. I keep wondering if I'm being selfish or if my reaction is justified. Am I the only one who thinks this whole thing is incredibly messed up? I guess I'm looking for advice, or maybe just some validation that I'm not completely crazy for feeling this way. Has anyone else ever dealt with something like this? How did you handle it without losing your mind? Because right now it feels like I'm losing mine. Story 4. Am I wrong for telling my sister I'm never inviting her to any more of my events if she brings her son? I 25F am pregnant with my first child. Yesterday was my gender reveal, and my husband and I had the cutest idea. I'm biased. I let my best friend take care of the planning. I just gave her the theme. Our theme was like a crime scene investigation. There was an area taped off with crime scene tape. There were even like the little cards that were numbered for evidence. Everyone was told to not cross the tape. My best friend went even as far as to dress up like a police officer and keep the public out. My sister 30F has a 13-year-old who is a lot. He's a handful. She doesn't discipline him. She's one of those parents who thinks her kid can do no wrong and that everyone else is the problem. He's been suspended from school 4 times already, and it's only October. He's been banned from Walmart for stealing. He broke his neighbor's window. I told her before she came that I need her to keep him next to her at all times, at least until the reveal was done. If that was too much, then she shouldn't come. She assured me she would make sure he was attached to her hip. He was not. I had to remind her twice to keep him away from the area. My best went to the bathroom for 5 minutes while everyone was standing around waiting for her to come back so we can do the gender reveal. She was supposed to come out and lift up the cover she had over the evidence. Before she could do that, we hear this giant boom from behind a curtain she set up, and all we see is white smoke, and he comes out with white powder all over him. I was in shock. My sister started laughing and telling me congratulations. I started immediately bawling. I was so upset and hurt that she couldn't even keep him next to her until the reveal was done. He then scoffed and said I was being dramatic, that I was going to find out anyway. I went off. I started cursing them both out. I told them to leave and not come back, and that I will never invite her to another event that I'm hosting. That she couldn't even do one thing for me. Her son was crying, that I yelled at him, and he did the whole thing, "Mommy, please save me" act. There were no tears, and he wasn't remorseful at all. My sister started to go off on me for yelling at her son, and my husband told her that wasn't going to happen in front of him. She tried to come at me for my husband coming at her. My stepmom, that's a whole me. Our dad cheated on her mom and had me, left her mom for mine, then ended up cheating on my mom with her mom, and now they're married. Said I was overreacting, and I was and am going through a lot. I'm a nurse who 3 or 4 12-hour shifts a week, and I am exhausted. I told her she could get TF out too, and it's not like she ever liked me. My mom and friends told them to leave, and that they shouldn't be stressing me out. My dad was conflicted on who to defend, but he ultimately stayed for me. They made a ruckus before leaving. Later that night, I got a text in the group chat that I embarrassed her and her son, that it wasn't a big deal, and I should be happy to have a healthy baby. I told her that's not what the problem was. I didn't know what the gender was, and I wanted it to be a surprise and celebrate it with my family. She said I was being dramatic. I told her to not contact me until she and her son can give a genuine apology, and that I wouldn't be inviting her to any of my events because of her son, and if she can't leave him alone, which she can't because he acts the way he does, then she'll have to miss out. She started mass texting the group, and I blocked her. She tried to call me from her mom's phone. The white smoke was supposed to reveal a makeshift jail cell with blue clothes, stuffed animals, basketballs, baseballs, footballs, trucks, all your stereotypical boy stuff. And there was a giant projector with a picture of the sonogram, and it said release date February 12th, 2025. I loved it so much, and I was so sad she didn't get to do her whole scene she had played out for us. She worked really hard on it. Edit. You don't have to come on here being so nasty and rude about a gender party, calling me tacky and other names like really. It was something that my husband and I wanted to do. No need to be nasty. There was no fire involved. I've seen the stories where places are set on fire. It was a simple cannon with white smoke. That was the explosion we heard. Story 5. My sister effectually cut herself out of the will without her knowing, and I don't plan to tell her. Both of my biological parents have passed, but my stepmom is my mom, as far as I'm concerned, for over 16 years. And she considers me to be her son. My sister never accepted her and hated my dad for years for some unknown reason. Because he remarried, maybe? Which would be hypocritical given her 3 marriages. Dad passed last year with nothing much to his name, but some items she didn't want, and his generous life insurance policy, which went to mom, which no one knew about at the time. And a decade before that, my sister had all but cut ties with this whole branch of the family anyway, except for the occasional Christmas card just to me. Which is how I found out she adopted a kid, because she wasn't bothered to call me or tell us she did so. She didn't attend Dad's funeral, but I get it because she does have 3 kids and lives 18 hours away. Years ago, when my dad was alive, because of my sister's disinterest in being a part of this family, he and my stepmom, aka mom, to me decided to leave everything they had to me in the event of bad things happening. They told me I would inherit everything. It's probably 400-500K plus a 3-bedroom house on a 1/4 acre that's mostly paid off now. I have not told my sister. She is seemingly happily married to a man 20 years her senior, and she has 3 kids from 3 other men that are not from the man she's married to. After her first 2 divorces, I mean. Also, she's 35 and I'm 37 if that means anything. Mom and Dad reached out to her for years, only to be rebuked and turned down and insulted time and time again for nonsense reasons. We both grew up in the same house, but somehow she's still the victim of checks notes, supportive parenting, and encouragement to improve ourselves. I was even invited to move back in when I had a rough spot some years ago, but managed to get through it. Personally, I think she just never got over our dad remarrying, which is a shame because my mom is amazing. And because of the distance my sister is keeping, my mom, my stepmom, my mom is the only family I really have left besides her 2 siblings, which are also amazing. The only family I talk to and visit. Almost everyone else is dead and or 18 hours away, on the other side of the planet apparently, because they also don't reach out. So, they say blood is thicker than water, but love is thicker than blood. And my sister's 3rd husband actually is a great guy. Despite their age difference, I admire him. Quiet, amenable, and supportive. He has a very generous retirement package and has no problems raising her 3 kids. She loves being a mom. She's good at it, and she won't hurt for anything if she doesn't inherit. And since neither of us got anything from our biological parents passing besides a few physical things of sentimental value, I know she'll be fine. So I'm not going to tell her she's disinherited for these and 100 other reasons I won't bore you with, like running away to another state as a teenager for starters, because true love. But yeah, I guess that's my confession. I don't know if she'll even give AS asterisk 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 when she finds out, but hopefully none of this will come to light for 30 or 40 years. I love my mom, and I don't want to inherit our family's estate anytime soon because that would mean she's gone. And I don't know how I'll survive that. Just the thought of her passing makes me teary-eyed. Ooh fuck. Now I'm crying? Sorry. Guess you get 2 confessions with this post.